I know.
This is just terrible. Speaking of terrible, I have pictures up on my page at knst.com. I know you are. Mad. The headline that I put up, cross-dressing student teacher at Vail High School focuses on sexual questions. Really? You don't say. So apparently there is a student teacher, or at least there was, and I'll get to that in a second. Andrada High School down in Vail. They had a guy, they called him Mr. Valenzuela, and he'd show up to work wearing pantyhose and dresses. Women's clothes. Isn't there like professionalism, like a code of conduct? You're expected to dress in a professional, respectful way. Oh, that's just too much. Is that going to be racist now too? So this is just insane what is happening here. Apparently and this is an English class, mind you. This is an English class. You have a dude that's a cross-dressing student teacher at Andrada High School in the Vail School District. High school English class. They were told to read, what are these vampire books again?
Breaking Dawn.
Breaking Dawn. Breaking Dawn. Remember those? They were turned into movies back, 15 years ago?
Sure.
And my wife's like, you need to see this movie. It's really good.
Yep, and you went and did it.
I was married. We were only married for like 2 years at the time. I had to say yes. So if you're familiar with those, it was a trilogy, I believe.
I had to say yes.
I had to. Wow. So they were books. They were books. They were turned into movies. So they're reading the books. Okay. Now apparently this cross-dressing Valenzuela guy, it's true. He came up with questions for the students in this English class about this vampire book, Breaking Dawn. Breaking Dawn.
Okay.
Here is the first question. And it's the only non-sexual question. I swear. Think about the dresses the two women are wearing. Lucy's is red and Mina's is white. Why is the color choice important? Yeah, that's the only non-sexual question. Question 2 about this book from his questions from this cross-dressing dude. Think about Lucy's interactions with Dracula, Mina's interactions with Jonathan, and the very final explosion. What is the film clip saying about sexuality? Okay. Third question. Think about the intensity of sexuality in this clip. What do you think might have been happening socially at the time this vampire was made? Think about the intensity of sexuality. High school English class. Question 4. Blade is part vampire, but is also a vampire hunter. What do you think this represents in terms of the theme of sexuality? Wait, what? What?
So is this like a vampire sex book?
Ryan had 3 scrambled eggs and rye toast for breakfast. What do you think this says about Ryan's sexuality?
I don't know, but I'll say it was about my cholesterol.
There you go.
Jeez.
Question 5. Bella the human is pressuring Edward the vampire to have sex in this clip. What do you think that says about the modern teen? Question 6, final one. Edward mentions that he would do things differently if he were human. What is this vampire saying about sexuality overall in the modern age? Garrett sneezed 4 times during a commercial break. What does this say about sexuality? The Islanders somehow miraculously won 2-1 last night. What does this say about sexuality? So you have a cross-dressing student teacher. And again, you want to cross-dress on your own time, you go cross-dress on your own time. It's totally fine. Totally fine. Okay? Shouldn't there be professionalism? Shouldn't the Vail School District Superintendent John Caruth, let me remind you who this guy is, by the way. John Caruth was the chief of staff for the former Arizona School Superintendent, Kathy Hoffman. She's a radical wacko, so is John Caruth. The principal of Andrada High School, shouldn't she be like, listen, you want to get a job working here or anywhere, you can't dress like a woman. Like, do it on your own time. You're a man. You're Mr. Valenzuela. You have to dress the right way. You have to be professional. There's a dress code, right? How could they let this happen? A concerned parent sent an email to me about this and wrote 2 students and their parents went to the principal at Andrada High School and said they were uncomfortable with the lessons being taught by this student teacher. You know what they were told? They were told by the principal they could leave the classroom. So the principal knew this cross-dressing dude was just asking random sex questions about a vampire book. By the way, even if he wasn't cross-dressing, I'd have a problem with this. You could see this all for yourself. It's on my page at knst.com. You can get to comments about it as well. 880-KNST, 880-5678. Now, I did promote it yesterday throughout the day that I was going to talk about this. So apparently the pressure has gotten a little bit to the Vail Superintendent of Schools, John Carruth. I've had some parents forward me emails because they complained to him. And all of a sudden, good old John Carruth is responding. I'll tell you what that is coming up. But what is the deal with this sexual everything? You guys are just overreacting about what happens in public school. You're just overreacting at all. Really? Okay, not only are they just overly sexualizing an English class with a vampire book, you have a dude dressing in drag, basically. He's not a drag queen, but he's cross-dressed. He's dressing as if he's a woman. The only thing he's missing is the obnoxious makeup and the wig. This is not good for kids. They don't have to. Who wants their kids exposed to this? This is not what's supposed to happen in school. I have more coming up.
Wait till he gets on the Canterbury Tales.
I'm going to pass. That's a. Going to let the.
What does it say if doth skirt is shorted?
3 + 3 is 6. What does that say about sexuality in math? Wait, what? Huh? What the hell are you talking about?
How? Never mind.
What's your deal?
Leaving it alone.
Thank you.
I'm leaving it alone.
Thank you very much. Don't go anywhere. Garret Lewis with you. KNST AM 790 Tucson's most stimulating talk. Ah, yes. Garret Lewis with you. It is your morning ritual. KNST AM 790 Tucson's most stimulating talk. Oh, wait. Thank you. You know what? It's a good time, Ryan. It's a good time to play a soundbite we played yesterday. It's on my page at knst.com. It's a good time to play that Arizona teacher. You know what I'm talking about? The one I played it yesterday. It's on my page. Yeah. Why do parents think they have a choice in what their kids should learn? They don't have a master's degree like me. This is an Arizona teacher that was against a bill. I think it's SB 1700, Senate Bill 1700, where it basically says Arizona Department of Education has to have a list of books that should not be allowed in school. I'm like, oh, you're about banning books. They're lewd, they're sexual, they're putting gender fluid, gender prone, all this other crap out there. Shouldn't be in schools with kids. And this bill would have had those books up there so then parents would know what books to make sure there are not in their kids' school. And she was against it. It's like this cross-dressing guy, going sexual about this. This is what she said to the Arizona legislature about why she doesn't like this bill.
I have a master's degree because when I got certified, I was told I had to have a master's degree to be an Arizona certified teacher. We all have advanced degrees. What do the parents have? Are we vetting the backgrounds of our parents? Are we allowing the parents to choose the curriculum and the books that our children are going to read? I think that it's a mistake. I'm just speaking from the heart. The one line that I love is we must remember that the purpose of public education is not to teach only what parents want their children to be taught. It is to teach them what society needs them to be taught.
You should know. There's a reason. I have a master's degree. It's totally fine to ask all kinds of sexual questions about a vampire book. You're too dumb to know why your kid needs this. Oh, really?
Is it the Vampire Kama Sutra?
Well, and who wouldn't want their kid to read that, right? So some parents forwarded me emails that they sent to the superintendent of Vail Schools, John Carruth, right? John Carruth. And apparently it must have caught wind that I'm going to talk about it. This is not the first time crap has happened in Vail, by the way. We've talked about in the past where they had some high school teacher. He was a global studies, not socialist, global studies teacher. Remember, he was ripping on Trump, anti-Trump stuff. And then we called them out. He was getting all cocky until he got in there and then realized I could lose my job over this. This is what needs to happen. And there's always going to be bad apples. I get it. But enough is enough. Like, this is garbage. How does the principal let this go? You don't know you have a student teacher dressing as a woman that's a guy? You don't think that's, maybe I should keep an eye on what this dude's doing in class. And on top of that, how about the teacher that's the mentor that's letting him do this stuff in the class? So I read some emails that parents wrote. They were very mad at what was happening. One of them said, there's no room or need for sexual grooming in the Vail School District. This needs to stop now. As the superintendent, you must do better to protect our kids and our community from sexual groomers. The questions Mr. V, that's the student teacher, Mr. Valenzuela, assigned and are disgusting. They have no place in the classroom. I also demand he is removed. Man, he's not a groomer and he's dressing in drag, basically. This is crazy. So John Caruth, the superintendent, writes back, I appreciate you writing regarding your concerns about a lesson that was taught by a student teacher at Andrada High School. The lesson should not have been taught, period. I can assure you that the situation has been fully addressed and is not representative of instruction or values that we strive to uphold in our school district. Of course, except for the fact that the principal apparently told parents and students, if you don't like it, just leave the classroom. Maybe the principal needs to go. We're also examining how this lesson got through our checks in place. Like the checks where they went to the principal and said, this is terrible, this shouldn't be taught. And the principal said, just leave the classroom. Just leave the classroom, right? We want to make sure only appropriate content that is related to the state standards is taught. We'll be making adjustments where necessary. That's one email. One. Oh, but wait, I have more. And this parent was very upset about, of course, the content, right? All this other stuff. And also the fact that the dude's dressing like a woman. Besides complaining about the sexualized questions about a vampire book, this parent writes, it appears Mr. V is a cross-dresser. He goes by Mr., so he doesn't identify as a woman. Why is he allowed to dress as a woman? So you have the sexual questions, the dude dressing like a woman. The kids are being groomed. They're being sexualized. So Caruth wrote back basically the same thing. I cannot state firmly enough the lesson should not have occurred and isn't condoned in any way. I'm sad and upset that it happened and apologized to you that it occurred. It's been addressed, blah, 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 everything I read before. What he leaves out and he never addresses is the fact that a man dresses in women's clothes to teach kids. That's somehow allowed. Like, again, dude, on a Thursday night for happy hour, if that's your thing, go for it, bro. It's not appropriate for a man to dress in women's clothes to then teach kids at a school. And I'm not a stiff, and I'm not a prude. It's just not appropriate, and you know it. And John Caruth, the Vail superintendent, did not address it at all. At all. And he didn't address how somehow, again, and I have it on my page, not only the pictures, but I copied and pasted that part of the email from a concerned parent. A concerned parent sent me an email saying 2 students and their parents went to the principal at Andrada High School and said they were uncomfortable with the lessons being taught by this student teacher, and they were told by the principal they could leave the classroom. That was the response by the Andrada High School principal. Who is the principal again? I believe it's a woman. Because, you could always let the principal know exactly what you think. Oh, it's a guy, Jeff Parks. Jeff Parks. Yeah, you don't like the fact that the dude's dressing like a chick and talking about everything sexual about a vampire book? You could leave. You could leave. Jeff Parks. Jeff with a G. Geoff Parks. I have more. You want to comment? Feel free. 880-KNST, 880-5678. It is pretty ridiculous that this stuff actually happened like that. It's disgusting. And again, every time we call it out, we're told, no. When I get back, I also have to get you really quick. The Scottsdale Unified School District. That place is a disaster, led by their white-hating white superintendent, Scott Menzel. He said, white people are problematic. Are they? Wait till you hear what they were doing to try to protect kids and not let parents know they want to change their gender. Oh, yeah. And we're going to talk to Shiry Sapir at 8:05 about this. Remember Shiry? She's still a mama bear, still fighting, doing everything that needs to be done. She has great ideas how people get involved, and you're going to need to listen to that. But she was all over this stuff in Scottsdale, all over it. We'll get her up at 8:05. Don't go anywhere. Garret Lewis with you. It is KNST. 7:34, Garret Lewis with you. We'll get more into this with Shiry Sapir when she's on with us at 8:05. But up in Scottsdale, it's a flipping disaster, too. The moms have become like private detectives up there, these mama bears, and they've been FOIA, like the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA-ing all kinds of documents. And the school district has been trying to hide them left and right. They got their hands on this document. You see this? On the top of it, it says confidential. Wait, what? Confidential.
Okay.
Scottsdale Unified School District Gender Support Plan. Wait, what? Shouldn't they just teach kids how to read and write and stuff like that? The purpose of this document is to create shared understandings about the ways in which the student's authentic gender will be accounted for and supported at school. Yeah. Confidential. Please note, there is a separate document to plan for a student formally communicating information about a change in their gender status at school. And on this, it says name, student uses, identity, assigned sex at birth. And it says at the bottom, parent/guardian involvement. Guardians aware of students' gender status, ? Yes or no? Level of support, none through 10. If support level is low, what considerations must be accounted for in implementing this plan? Like, what can we do if there's no support from the parents? Excuse me? Wow. Let me jump to Steve. Steve, welcome to KNST. Hi, Steve.
Hello. So I have many views of this. I have a trans son that is 23, made almost 100 grand last year in his career, productive, one of my best kids. I also have a kiddo going to Andrada. I've done foster care for 18 years. My issue with this teacher is any teacher that has so much curiosity about what these kids' views are of other people's sexuality or how they feel about sexuality. As a foster parent for 18 years, I have watched many biological parents be required to take psychosexual psychiatric evaluations for far less than this. That and the fact that he holds a level 1 fingerprint card is unbelievable to me.
What is that, a level 1 fingerprint card?
It's required by teachers, required by nurses, required by parents. It's a federal background check where you get fingerprinted and they dig into everything of your background. And the fact the district should be requiring this man to take a psychosexual evaluation by a licensed psychiatrist before he is put back in that classroom.
Well, so I think he's been removed. I've been told he wasn't there Monday and Tuesday, so word was starting to get around.
Okay.
But here's the even to add to the insanity of this. Again, he's a student teacher, so he was doing it while the teacher was in the class. So the teacher that was witnessing this didn't say a damn thing. And then on top of that, and then on top of that, 2 parents and students went to the principal and said, this is what's happening. And the principal said, just leave if you don't like it.
Well, Caruth was assistant superintendent before he was called to Phoenix about 8 years ago to work in.
Yeah, he was the chief. He was the chief of staff. He was the chief of staff for Kathy Hoffman. Yes.
Yes, before being brought back to Vail. And since he has become superintendent, the whole district has just slid left.
Yep, he's a radical wacko. He's a radical, and I've seen emails he sent parents about this. He's like, "No, this is my home. We will not let this be what the school represents." He's full of crap. But then again, you have the school board, right? They aren't going to do anything, and you have the biggest rhino garbage heap there is, a guy named Chris King, who is on that school board. He should be outraged. He should be calling everybody because he's a so-called conservative, and he doesn't say. I haven't seen anything from this guy about this. He's a complete waste as well. I'm glad we got rid of him and all the other rhinos that were part of the Pima GOP and all these legislative districts. So academia has been taken over. Unfortunately, we need people to get involved, and we're going to thank you for the phone call. We're going to get to Shiry Sapir 805. We need other people to get involved. We need churches to get involved, temples as well. We'll get to all that. More reaction coming up, and we have to get to some calls, too, about Katie Hobbs asking for the resignation of her nominee to run the Department of Child Services before he even gets a confirmation hearing. She hired him because he's black, she's racist, and then she asks him, she says, you got to go, because apparently he fired openly gay employees, and they have now filed complaints against him. So we have somebody on the inside about this, too, that has some insight about it. Don't go anywhere. Garret Lewis with you. KNST AM 790, Tucson's most stimulating talk. All right, 745, Garret Lewis with you right here. KNST AM 790, Tucson's most stimulating talk. Just some insanity going on in the schools. Absolute insanity. We'll talk to Shiry Sapir in about 20 minutes about all of this stuff and what needs to happen. But to get back to another thing I talked about in the last hour, and it's on my Twitter at Garret Lewis, how Katie Hobbs, this is amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Katie Hobbs is now forcing the resignation of a recent appointee already. A person doesn't even have the job yet. A guy named Matthew Stewart. He was working for the Department of Child Safety. He was working for that. And he apparently didn't show up to work, was insubordinate. He was going to be suspended. He resigned, and that happened. So then Katie Hobbs is like, well, now that I'm here, I want him to run DCS. And she said she's happy he's black. Quote, he's the first black leader of DCS. She's building an inclusive government that reflects diversity. But now, before he can even get a confirmation hearing, she's like, you have to resign. Why? Because apparently there's a lot of things. People are leaving DCS. 4 high-level people have left because of him, apparently. Questionable contracts, consulting contracts. And apparently he fired non-appointed, openly gay employees of DCS who have now filed complaints against him. What a disaster. She is an S-show, Katie Hobbs, her whole regime. She doesn't know what she's doing. And neither do the people that are in her regime. They have no idea. Complete and total incompetence. Between this and the fact that she came out 5 weeks into her first legislative session and says, I'm going to work hard, $500,000. I'm spending $500,000. Where'd you get the money from, Katie? Didn't think that one through. $500,000 to try to flip the legislature from Republican to Democratic. And all of it. Really? So now you don't want any Republicans there. Why would they ever want to work with you? You just proved to the whole state that you're a clown show. And we know you're a clown show. We know you're nothing but an ideologue. Now the Republicans have all the ammunition they need to not have anything you want pass. And if you want to shut down the government, you go ahead. You've already vetoed, 3 budgets? Almost $10 billion in education spending. You vetoed that. This is on you, lady. Melinda, welcome to KNST. Hi, Melinda.
Hi. We thought that we could work with this guy, Matthew Stewart, because he was skeptical about DCS. He worked for them. And he was interviewed, and he said, I just don't believe that DCS can solve the problems of poor families. We need to keep families together. Hobbs was firing him for firing 4 gays. What did he notice about these guys? Had they done something? Why did he do it? Why did he fire them?
So you're saying that maybe, because I know you've been very skeptical, and I get it, about DCS, that, they steal They steal children from parents. They hold them. They make parents have to prove that they're not doing anything bad before they're given back. And there's no time frame that's given. It's a horrible agency. And you're saying that maybe this guy actually was doing the right thing?
Absolutely.
And
I
that's
think
why.
So. Okay, so he was fired for not showing up to work. Who did show up for work? Katie didn't.
Yeah.
And then DCS's parking lot on Oracle for years was empty because they were conducting business online. They were even doing visitation with parents and their infants online. The most important thing about what I heard this morning is that he was looking into the contracts. Now, DCS Oversight Group that I belong to, we identified 460 contractors with DCS. Some of them are just ridiculous. We saw a contractor asking for $100 million to start an education program for newborns from birth through 1 year old. I swear.
Wait, did you say $100 million?
What
did they want for that? What were they going to do? Take the newborns from the families?
Educate. This woman sat. You see, we formed the AZDCS Oversight Group after the AZDCS Oversight Committee in Phoenix. They listen. They sit there and listen to these contractors come in to pitch their ideas to DCS. There's also a contract for drivers we know of, where DCS will place a child from Tucson in Four Corners, and then the drivers will put one little kid in a car, in a van, and drive them from Four Corners to Tucson and back. That's a 16-hour trip of a man in a van with a child for $2,400 round trip. That's every week. So
why would they do this?
Well, because the contractors rule here. The last numbers I found were $83,000 per year per child from Health and Human Services down to the states for DCS, for CPS, all across the nation. And that money is distributed to their contractors. It's not about caring for children. It's about distributing money.
So it's like money laundering.
Yes, for group homes. Now, there's a new law that was just passed, like a hot knife through butter, for $15 million for aftercare, for foster care, so that they can take these kids who have been abused and neglected in foster care and get them into college for 2 years. So the age is, they'll take kids out of foster care at 17 and a half through 21 and let them go to college. Well, they're unprepared. And so they're going to take $15 million and put it into a site where it's an experiment to see if they can whip these children into shape and get them into college. Why did the legislature trust this agency? These aftercare programs, there have been 3 murders in less than a year in these aftercare teenage to 21 foster care homes in Phoenix. 3 murders. 2 girls were found face down in a ditch last month. So now they want $15 million to build a new experimental warehouse for teenagers. I mean, this agency needs some deep examination.
So listen, and we've talked about this, Melinda. We've talked about this, and I don't. It seems like big business, and it's all been exposed with the Epstein situation. And our wide open border is the trafficking of kids. And I've heard the rumors about DCS and involvement with this. and other forms of government involved in this as well. I mean, is that what we were talking about? How they're endangering? This is like big business in that aspect?
Yes, it's child trafficking for money. And we need an audit, and I'll talk to Justine and Corey and Rachel about an audit of all the DCS contractors, because that is what this is about.
So this is it's about money, like just like Catholic Charities, wanting open borders because without illegal immigration, they don't make the money. It's big business.
Catholic Charities was they're being sued right now, along with Mark Brnovich and the state, for little Devaney. Remember the little blonde girl who was placed in a pedophile ring, and then she was placed with a woman who submerged her in a bath of 140-degree water.
I remember that.
And she was burned. She was third-degree burns from her chest to her feet.
I do remember.
That Catholic Charities they were the people who adopted her to this woman. And the brother-in-law of this foster father said, do not adopt this child to this woman. She takes drugs and she's violent, and they ignored it. I mean, I sat next to the woman at the charity event, and she said she was from Catholic Charities, and I said, how do you feel about that little girl that your company adopted to Samantha Osteroff? She said, I did it. I did that. I will never forgive myself. So at this charity event, her husband was getting an award. The lights went down. She left the table. And he left the table. They did not return. He took his award, and then I couldn't find them. So there are things going on in this state. Has to do with money, has to do with trafficking. And, we used to make beautiful things in the United States, and the government got their money from taxing us to death. But now they have discovered human trafficking, and that is far more profitable. It's the same operation.
Just like illegal immigration. Yeah, it's crazy. It's all how you make the money. COVID, everything. Yeah.
The same model is used for children at the border. DCS is involved. They get the contracts. They displace American children from, some foster care benefits to pay for the children coming in. Remember Southwest Key?
Yes.
Up on the Oracle?
Yep, right. It's right near our radio station. And the kids were jumping the fence to escape. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a church that used to go there. And, they would knit little hats for the children. And the pastor would not let me go with her because she knew I would make trouble. No. I said, how are the kids? They're miserable.
This is This is all part of why the election was rigged, and they don't want any of this to come out, And that's why I think that, again, that story about Brnovich, it's BS. I mentioned the last hour. Something big is going to happen. Has to be coming with the election. For them to come out with this random statement and three pieces of evidence came forth that Brnovich hid facts that the election was on the up and up in 2020. Meanwhile, Jen Wright says there were two divisions, civil and criminal, at the AG's office, and we couldn't finalize any investigation because the Maricopa County elections officials wouldn't turn over any documents. So they're trying to create the narrative. I know this is all part of it. Yeah, I'm just running short on time. I know this is so important, Melinda, and this is a very interesting angle you've presented. Very interesting angle. It's just all the corruption.
And have him on the show.
What's that?
Maybe contact Matthew and have him on the show. Let's hear what he has to say.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea. That is a great idea.
Because if Katie Hobbs is going against somebody who didn't go to work, and
she didn't go to work, yeah,
who fired some gays, then let's hear what he has to say.
That's a great point. I'm going to make some phone calls after the show. Melinda,
all right,
I appreciate it.
Thank
take care. You got to take care. We'll continue. Don't go anywhere. Shiry Sapir coming up as well on this whole crazy school stuff. She's got some ideas, and you can make a big difference And it's what needs to happen if you want kids that aren't going to all be purple-haired TikTok freaks. Don't go anywhere. Garret Lewis with you. It's KNST.
All states or situations.
Call Strongbill, the most comfortable call you'll ever make.
All right, 8:07 on this Thursday. Garret Lewis with you. It is your morning ritual. KNST AM 790 Tucson's most stimulating talk. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Insanity going on in schools. I mean, it seems like it's never going to stop. We need people to step up. Not enough are. Told you about the situation going on in Vail with the cross-dressing English teacher who is talking about, a student teacher, I should say, as well, who's asking sexualized questions about a vampire book. I mean, you're like, wait, what? What the hell's going on? And then out in Scottsdale, where you have the white superintendent, Scott Menzel, when he was a superintendent of a district in Michigan, gave an interview, and he said, white people are problematic. Of course, he's not giving up his job as a white man and white superintendent to anybody else. He's collecting that cash. But somebody that's involved to talk about all this, and I've had great conversations with her. She should be the superintendent of schools here in the state of Arizona, but we have rigged elections. She's awesome. Shiry Sapir, because Shiry was out there in Scottsdale. Shiry, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So I talked about a lot in the last hour, including what you saw. And I want you to paint the picture with everything going on in Scottsdale and then overall in schools. But this document, and you have it on your Twitter account, and I'm going to share it as well, at Shiry Sapir. And it basically... this document, it says from the Scottsdale Unified School District, it says confidential on top. So nobody's supposed to know about it. And it says here, the purpose of the document is to create shared understandings about the ways in which students' authentic gender will be accounted for and supported at school. And it says they have other documents for a student to formally change, apparently, what they want to be called. And it says a parent-guardian involvement. Are the guardians aware of the student's gender status? And if the support is low, what can be done to implement this? I mean, this is insane stuff. What was it like when you saw this? How was it discovered? And what was it like at the school board meeting?
This was actually discovered through a FOIA request that was unrelated to this issue, but a very astute mother paid attention and saw that two teachers were exchanging questions about that form. So she filed another FOIA request, and that's when the school district was really trying to avoid giving her that information. And it took months for her to finally receive that form. And then she was told by the superintendent that this form is really not being used in the district. And she said, well, why does it exist? It has your logo on it. It was discussed between teachers. So, Garret, we've seen this trend. At this point, it should not be a surprise to anyone. I really don't know why people have their children in public schools. You can't trust these people because the word confidential, when it's being circulating throughout staff, teachers, administrators in a district, who is it confidential from? Well, it's obvious. We're not that dumb. It's confidential from the parents. It's completely against the Parents' Bill of Rights, which we're exhausted talking about, which nobody does anything about, by the way, in this state. Yeah. And they're really trying to make sure that they're creating these safe spaces to these children and away from their parents' knowledge as to what is really going on with the mental health of their child. When a child is transitioning or is identifying as anything else other than who they are, that's something that is imperative for the parents to know about and be involved in helping and fixing. And the school thinks that they know better.
They should know better. Look, okay, so let's go back really quick. This was just discovered by a couple of mama bears. Yes. And if the school is so proud of this and they think people like it, shouldn't they just own it and be like, you know what, we think this is the right thing to do, but yet they try to hide everything?
Well, it's funny because they used to be a lot more sneaky before. Now they're a little bit more emboldened as to talking about equity, diversity, inclusion, and the social justice issues that they're bringing in as part of the curriculum. So now they're a little bit more emboldened because now they've gained enough public support to where they can say these things and have a bunch of, like we did see in the Scottsdale Unified School District board meeting, they had 200 of their teachers, filling up an auditorium. When we're there and trying to fight them, they will not. They left us out at the 105 degrees, and they will not open the auditorium because there were more of us, right? So, but when he's orchestrating his people to coming in, it's a different story. But the bottom line is, they know exactly what they're doing. They know some of it is against the law, and that's why forms like that are very questionable. And I sent it to the Goldwater Institute. We're going to need to follow up on these things. This is not the first district. We saw it in the foothills in Tucson. We saw it in many different other places, in Mesa. They all rolled out this policy of what's the child's name, what's their biological gender, what's the gender that they're identifying as, their pronoun, their name, and do the parents know or do not know? That question is a sin. They should never have that question on the form. They should always consult with the parent and tell the parent what's going on with their child, but they don't.
Yeah, they don't. Shiry Sapir is on KNST, and let's talk really quick because this is an older email. The principal in the principal of the Orange Grove Middle School in the Catalina foothills, Mark Rubin Tolles, and he goes by him. He put that down. It says, right, and of course, it says confidential. List of students with pronouns and preferred names different than in Synergy. And he wrote an email to teachers and staff. Teachers and staff, if you're like me, you may have been challenged recently to keep some of our kids' pronouns and preferred names straight, and to remember what can and can't be shared with families. Right there, what can and can't. So again, they hide from the parents of the kids what the kid is actually doing. And they writes, Carol and Roseanne have come to the rescue. This is a confidential list of our students who have made us aware that they have different pronouns or preferred names. And they give the list. They don't show this document. Of course, it's blacked out. But please add any students whom you are aware of that are not on the list. If you do not know the student's level of comfort with the staff awareness, communicate with Carol and Roseanne. Please be very careful. Students in red are not comfortable with us sharing this information with their parents and guardians. This can be cognitively challenging. It's our responsibility to protect student privacy in these matters. It's our goal to respect these students' pronouns, names, and privacy consistently across campus. And this is from the principal of the Orange Grove Middle School, Mark Rubin-Tolles, T-O-L-E-S. They're separating the students from the parents. It's the parent's responsibility to find out whatever their minor child is doing. Am I right?
You would think in a normal society that used to be the consensus, but not anymore. No, the children don't belong to us. If you're asking the education apparatus in this country, children do not belong to their parents. No, they're part of the community. Remember, it takes a village, Miss Clinton. Yeah. They belong to them. The whole school, whole community idea is to really bring in every aspect of the child's life into the school and take care of it from there. And that is why I keep telling people, you don't understand what you're doing when you're dropping off these kids in these schools. You stand no chance between peer pressure, between trying to appease the teachers, between the conniving that's going on with the administrators, between the counseling and the social workers that are all, and we have emails from the National School Psychologists Association. I mean, I have all those emails from them to their people. It's all about make sure you create that friendship with these children. Make sure that you make them feel safe. Make sure you bring in the equity, diversity, and inclusion issues. Make sure you look at everything through the lens of intersectionality, right? Race and sex. This is all, it's happening. It's so vast, Garrett, and people need to understand we are way too late to waking up to this. The only way for you to save yourself is to take your child out of the schools, or make sure you get in writing a promise from the schools that they're going to give you consent for everything that has to do with your child. And I assure you they're not going to do that. But and the surveying that's taking place with all of these communications, people don't understand the kind of surveying that they're doing of our children, unbeknownst to us, which is against state law. But again, state law in Title 15 in Arizona is meaningless. There is no teeth in any of it. Nobody's enforcing it, and they know it. So the wedge that they're creating between us and our kids is real, and they're determined, and they're successful.
Now, what is that law that's supposed to be enforced? What if people don't know what that is? What is that? That they just can't do this stuff without parental consent?
Well, the Parents' Bill of Rights in Arizona, ARS 1602, states clearly that parents have the right to direct the education of their children, the upbringing, the moral and religious training, and make all medical decisions regarding their children. Period. It's not confusing in the language of the law, but they're violating it. 15117 says that you cannot survey children regarding their sexual attitudes and behaviors. All this talk about sexuality and gender identity is directly related to speaking about your attitudes and behaviors regarding sex. You know, we were sitting at the Scottsdale Unified School District meeting yesterday or 2 days ago, and a mom said 5-year-old children cannot decide what gender they are. And the teachers that were sitting behind me and around me, because we were surrounded with them, laughed at her. They laughed out loud. And it was heart-wrenching to me. I thought to myself, wow, isn't that amazing? Not only are they so dismissive and ridiculing us, the parents, but they really do believe in that. So why are you putting your children in that environment? They really do believe that children can decide their gender at age 5, and they should be encouraged to question their gender at age 5.
And it's all to brainwash and indoctrinate the kids into what they want them to be, not what the parents want them to be. That's what this is. Put them out there, and just little socialist liberals, and it ruins the country. We're not the same. That's what it comes down to.
No, and we'll never be the same after this cultural war is over, because we're losing it. We're losing it big time. And you have some great ideas as to what people can do and what organizations can do to try to fix this. And I want to get into that, but really quick too. You mentioned, when we talked yesterday, you said that when you went to the Scottsdale school board meeting, all of a sudden these liberals, they're all out there, and it was like 100 of them, right? Versus like 30 or 40 of you. 200.
200, and then the school board only let 4 of you, right? Your team speak versus, a countless number of the other side, right?
Yeah, they gave us 1 minute, 60 minutes of speaking. There were about less than 10 of us, maybe 8, and then the rest of them were people speaking about how the superintendent is a wonderful man.
Yeah. And then you said that these liberals were outside, 200 of them, and they can't stand our flag. They can't stand the Pledge of Allegiance, but they're putting off the image that they like it. They actually had. Now all of a sudden these liberals are embracing the American flag. Talk about that really quick.
Yes, it was so amazing to me because, when I see people with flag, I immediately assume that they're my people. So I was walking towards them, even though they were in the mix of the rest of them with the rainbow flags. And I thought to myself, this is interesting. And as I walked towards them, of course, the sign said freedom of learning and freedom to learn. I asked them, what does that mean? And they said, what do you think it means? I said, I don't know. What does it mean? Freedom to indoctrinate them or freedom from indoctrination? I mean, it's 2 separate concepts. And they were laughing at me, of course. And then they said, well, we're not indoctrinating. We're teaching kids to love and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, I know exactly where you're at. Mm-hmm. But they all had American flag all over there. And that was very confusing. This is the first time I've seen that happening. And I'm concerned. And I'm telling everybody not to start paying attention. They're going to be stealing our flag back from us because you would have never seen that. They have disdain to this country, disdain to this flag, and for them to have been using it yesterday, or the day before, it was really interesting to watch. So I'm just saying, start watching for that because I think they got the idea that they need to start using it to confuse more and to not let people know who they really are.
Can you hang on for me for one more segment, Shiry? Because I want to get into what you thought people can do and churches getting involved, the Republican Party, and just to get into the detail again, how they're winning, how the other side is getting into the community, because it's a big, big, big deal. Hang on for me if you don't mind. Shiry Sapir, who should be the state superintendent of schools, and she is awesome, and she's a fighter, and the whole Republican Party needs to embrace what she is doing, especially friggin' Tom Horn. But we'll get into all that. Don't go anywhere. Garret Lewis with you. It's KNST.com. Continuing right here on your morning ritual, me, Garret Lewis, on KNST AM 790. It is Shiry Sapir, former candidate for state superintendent of schools. Mama Bear, she should be in charge. She should be running the state on this. Shiry, I had a question. Actually, I'll give credit. My dad sent me a message. He's listening on the iHeartRadio app, and he said, were the parents that were laughing at you, the parents laughing at the idea that 5-year-olds can't discuss gender, were they young teachers that were brainwashed in college, or are these all age and even older teachers that are just ideological liberals?
Actually, sadly, some of them were older, and I actually looked and checked. Some of them were older, but mostly younger. Yes, mostly 30s, 40s. But some of them were older. It was surprising.
Wacko liberals. So what do you think can be done? And I know it's tough and it's a long uphill battle. And I think we're getting there because we have other options now. It's almost like we need two separate societies. And Dinesh D'Souza spoke about that when he was in Tucson a couple years ago, where it's like, you got to only support the people on your side. You got to bankrupt the others. But what can be done? How can people be active in this? Is it just creating two separate societies, or is it also just getting involved, the involvement that needs to take place?
Well, I think we're at a point now that it's going to be really difficult to reconciliate the changes. They are very, the gap is very deep. And so we have to see how they're playing their game and how we've been playing our game, right? We've been playing our game, being polite, letting them do what they're doing, seeing the best in them, putting a little bit of money here and there. Some people volunteer a little bit, but this is nothing compared to their organizing abilities, their ability to get into these communities. And that's why I tell people the only way for us, if we want to win this, is we need to understand how are they winning. Well, they're getting their nonprofit organizations into their communities, especially minority communities. They help them out with path to citizenship, with food stamps, with getting housing, with all kinds of different things that they recognize that community needs. And they're sitting there for a year or two or three or four. They gain the trust of those communities. And then from there, they create those activists that knock on doors and do all these things inside the community, from within the community, who are trusted in the community. So think about what the Republicans are doing. Do we do any of that? No. We build nice churches, really nice, artifacts, lights, music, great bands. It's fantastic entertainment. And that's it. That's it. And we expect the community to come to that church. The disintegration of the church in this country is going to be the fall of this country. I can see it. I can sense it. And I'm a Jewish girl, but I told you that yesterday. I love the Christianity aspect of this country. I understand that that's what the founding fathers wanted to see continue after them. And the separation of church and state had been a myth that they're using, and they were not challenged on throughout history. All these Republicans in place, with all of these Republicans in the Supreme Court, they were never truly challenged on that notion that there is separation of state and church in this country. And because of that, we're losing, because if we had our churches involved as much in the communities, if we had our churches involved in politics, we would win. If you had every church in every district say, on Tuesday at 6 o'clock, show up to the school board meeting, people listen to their pastors, they would. But these churches don't take the chance, the risk to do it. Meanwhile, all the other nonprofit organizations are super political, and they get away with it. The IRS is not after them. So we're not playing the same way this game, and we're set to lose. We are losing. We're deeply losing, and we need to change it. Our churches need to wake up and know that they have a last chance before they're losing this country to wake up, get involved, open. These churches are huge facilities that are vacant the entire week except for Sunday most of the time. Open micro schools in there. Now you have ESA, you have empowerment scholarship accounts. Every child is worth some money in the state. Open some schools, put a couple of teachers in there. Make sure you have Constitution studies to your children on Sundays when they show up. It's up to you to create that environment. It's not just about going in and picking up some eggs on Easter. No, this is not what church is supposed to do if you want to keep your children, because the statistics are significant. you're losing your children, even if you were able to maintain them somehow throughout their private school life in a private Christian school until they're in 12th grade. They're going to college, and you lost them. 1 to 3, 1 to 4. So that's the only plan I can see, because if people think that we can do something by having rallies and everybody's, rah-rah, and everybody's having great ideas, and we say the pledge and we sing the anthem at the top of our lungs, if we think that's going to change the trajectory of this country, then we're wrong.
It's a valid point. It's hard to hear, but it's true. And yes, I mean, why wouldn't churches want that? I mean, I know of churches where there's conservative pastors all over the place, and and they want to grow the church, and that's great. But people are there; they're willing to listen, and they're willing to fight with us. And you might want to tell them, yeah, you know what, we need to make sure that we keep this right, because I would think that churches would be against, what Scottsdale Unified School District is doing, which is trying to divide the parent and the student. Parent from their own child, and go, change your gender, don't tell your parents. I'd think they'd be against what's going on in Vail, where you have a cross-dressing English teacher asking sexual questions about vampire book. They should be, and they should say, we need to fight for our country and fight for our kids. Get out there. Let's go out there and overwhelm them in numbers. That's the only way to make the difference. Yeah, a rally is great for 10 minutes or an hour, and then after that, it's over. That's what Democrats do. They have the institutions built in. We need to just copy their game plan. That's all we need. It's all out there. All we need to do is copy it. So, and you're going to hopefully wake up the Republican Party to this as well, right? I mean, I know you're going to try to spread this. It needs to be there if they really, truly want to win.
Well, I'm looking at this right now, and I see that we're running out of time. We are truly running out of time, and I am speaking with the Republican Party to try to play the game a little bit different, because we need to gain back some ground, and we lost. Not only did we lose politically because of shenanigans and otherwise, but we're losing what I'm seeing, and that's one of the most alarming things that I see right now, is that it's becoming almost a personal story for everybody I meet, that they have a transgender, either their child, a cousin, a nephew. So now it's becoming a personal story for a lot of people. And when it becomes personal, people are not as ready to attack or fight against something, because now it's personal. It's part of their story. And this had been the plan, right? They had to make it to where it's so vast and it's so common, to where now you have to kind of step back and say, maybe we should think about how we protect these kids, because after all, it's your child, it's your cousin, it's your nephew, it's your niece. And so this is the stage that we're in. That's why I'm calling it stage 4 cancer. This is the stage that we're in, and we can't think that we can win if we continue to have all of these kids transitioning and being told to transition or identify, because a lot of them not really in their heart sexually attracted to the other sex. It's not about that. It's really just the attention seeking, the feeling that they belong, the getting special, treatment in different places. This is what really drives them to, and peer pressure, what drives them to make those decisions. And so I think that we need to do something, and we need to do something now. And whatever it is we've been doing is certainly not working. I can tell you, going to these meetings and seeing the difference between the organization that they have, we see their emails, we see their posts. They call their soldiers, and their soldiers show up. Our soldiers are cooking dinner, going to work, going to church, trying to live their life. That's the difference between our soldiers and them, and we're set to lose.
We need to step up, and they make it normalized and cool for the kids. It's what everyone's doing, and it's not. It's not. We all need to start chipping in that aspect. I guess maybe it does take a village. It needs a whole bunch of people to get pissed off and angry and show up and demand things and put pressure on there. So, Shiry, you know what? You, God, I wish you would have won. It's just so ridiculous. It's insane right now. Is Tom Horn reaching out to you? Is he open to what you are saying and your ideas?
No, he hired Michelle Udall. I think it was obvious that
Democrat.
They need to do what they need to do. What they're doing is not what I would have done.
Yeah.
Sadly. So it is what it is. But that's why I'm staying involved, to try to get the people and the party to do things differently. If I was in the Department of Education right now, oh my gosh, there would have been such a vast change, and I couldn't care less about the criticism I would have gotten because we're saving these kids. You see them showing up in these meetings and talk about democracy and talking about inclusion and talking about all these things, and they're so lost, and they look lost, and they need a haircut, and they need to look better, and they need to be dressed better, and they need to be told, of being godly and having morals is not a wrong thing. It's not a bad thing, being godly. It's better being godly than human. Humans are animals, and they're teaching them to be animals. And I want to change this, and I'm hoping we're going to find a way to do it because it's going to be tragic if we didn't.
You're right. Shiry, whatever you need, let me know. We'll get you on. I'm going to try to pressure some churches and, and other places and people involved to step up and do the right thing. I know they're listening now, too. You got to do it. You got to do it. It's not about just growing your church. It's about making sure you save people and the kids in the country as well. So otherwise, you're just in it for the business. That's just how it is. Shiry, thank you for everything. I appreciate it. And whatever you need, let me know, okay? All right.
Thank you, Garret.
You got it. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. At Shiry Sapir on Twitter. It's Shiry Sapir. We'll continue. Garret Lewis with you right here on KNST.com. Oh, yeah. 8:45. Garret Lewis with you. KNST AM 790, Tucson's most stimulating talk. Going to have Jennifer Wright on at 9:05. These garbage stories that were coming out all at the same time. Chris Mays, unfortunately the AG at this moment, I'm putting out 3 documents, a whopping 3 documents. Mark Branovich hid the fact that the investigators couldn't find any proof the election was a fraud in 2020. He hid it. And then all of a sudden you have the Maricopa County supervisors all putting that crap out there. Bill Gates, the supervisor, he ran out to CNN to do an interview. Shows you how Republican that guy is. So they do it. Jen Wright worked for the Attorney General's office. She was Assistant Attorney General. She actually was part of the Elections Integrity Unit and the EIU, Law and Order EIU. And she was part of the Civil Division. She's like, actually, none of these things are final because the elections officials refused to turn over all the information, so we couldn't actually investigate. She's going to join me at 9:05 to explain that even more. Don't believe the hype. They're trying to create a narrative because I think they're scared of, I don't even know what's going to come out, but they're obviously building a narrative for some reason. And when you build a narrative based on a lie, you're trying to start, you're trying to basically get it out there first, right? When you get it out there first, it's hard to beat that. We'll talk to Jen Wright about all that. First, Representative Rachel Jones joins me now because I have to thank you, Rachel, because you were listening on the iHeartRadio app and you were listening to what Shiry Sapir said. And fortunately, you had a bill that you say would have basically stopped this, but unfortunately it wasn't heard. Can you explain?
Yeah, thank you, Garret. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's frustrating. I had a bill. It's HB 2317, I believe, and it was exactly regarding this situation. It started with, I actually was going to amend it because initially it was just the school counselors that were included in there, but I wanted to amend it to change it to every, teachers, school counselors, psychologists, whoever, social workers, all the people that are going to be in contact with the children. I was making it law that they had to have a form where the parents could basically say, this is what you're allowed to talk to my child about.
So meaning that you can't talk about sex, gender, this, that, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. No gender fluidity if the parent wasn't comfortable with any LGBTQI. The parent was going to be able to have the rights that they should have to say, do not talk to my child about A, B, and C. And unfortunately, it never even got heard in the election committee. So it's definitely going to be one that I drop again next session, and let's pray that it gets heard and makes its way through this time.
Do you have any idea why it wasn't heard?
I talked to the chair. I like her, and I don't know if it was just kind of too late in the game, but she seemed a little frustrated that I was bothering her about a bill. And then the next week she was hearing like 3 Democrat bills. So I was a little, Yeah, a little confused by that, but the bill was good enough that the Center for Arizona Policy mentioned it in one of its newsletters. They were really excited about it. So this is just an example of if you don't get it through this time, you just keep pushing. Next session, I know Corey and Justine and I have a few bills that will probably end up that way, and we'll just be ready to go with them next time.
I'm assuming you don't want to, and you don't have to. I don't want to ruin anything that you are trying to get done by naming the chair. I mean, this person should own it, right? They should, and they're listening to Democrat bills instead of your bill. But I don't want to put any pressure on you, Rachel. I'm not trying to. I understand how the game is played.
Yeah, no, and I like her. It's Bev Pingarelli. I do like her. I don't know if it was just oversight. I honestly can't answer for her. Hopefully this gives me some leeway to go to her if she's the chair again next year and say, hey, this bill was already on CAP's radar. It's a really good bill. We're having major issues with this issue, obviously, in all of the school districts, and let's make sure it gets heard next time. And I'm sure she'll be she'll be responsive, I would assume.
Man, oh man, oh man. Well, I hope it has. Is there teeth in the bill? Like because you know how it is, Rachel, is that if they just don't care. Liberals don't care. Well, I'm going to do it until I get caught. And who can we throw them in prison? Can we charge them with a misdemeanor or a felony? Like, what would make them follow the law, basically? Right.
Well, that's I guess the good thing about it not being heard was I was working with a school counselor on the language in the bill, and that was one of her concerns. She wanted it to have enough teeth that it would actually force the school administration to give the form to every parent. And so that's actually a really good idea that I can add in there next time.
Yeah, because they don't care. And then, of course, you're going to hear the detractors, right? They're going to say, well, if a student wants to, is not getting the support at home and they're scared, they have to be able to tell a teacher. But at the same time, that's like, you wouldn't let me come over and talk to your kids about politics or sex, right? It's your job. Like, right. So why, no, give me that. Give me a break about that. And honestly, to me, there's not much of a difference between a teacher giving a kid drugs, giving a kid cigarettes, giving a kid beer that's underage, and also saying, let me know if you want to change your gender. I'm all about that too. It's just as damaging. Just as damaging.
Oh, yeah. Well, and a minor child, the parent is in charge of that child. I don't know why these teachers and these school counselors are, overstepping the way that they are. And that was actually another part of that bill. Anytime there is disciplinary action being taken with the child, they have a group of school administrators. I think it's the teacher, the principal, the social worker. All of these people are involved in this planning meeting, except the parent. And to me, that a parent should be involved in that. If they're having issues with the child, why is the parent not in there to give their feedback? They know what's going on at home. I would think that would be very helpful information coming from the parent. But that bill added the parents into that planning meeting as well.
Isn't it sick that you have to do that? Like, shouldn't that be automatic? I mean, this is just crazy. But this is what they do, right? This is what they do.
Well, it's all intentional, right? It's been this breakdown of parental rights, very intentionally. And back even when I was just a youngster, years and years ago, my parents were involved in every aspect of my education. And I did go to a public school, I think kindergarten through 5th grade. So they have very systematically changed all of this because of the indoctrination that they're attempting to do. So if you can cut the parent out, then you can, get a hold of that child. And they're so impressionable, especially these, elementary age kids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you have kids. You have 5, right? My oldest is a pleaser. The kids are pleasers, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, they want to do what the teacher wants. They want to make them happy. Mm-hmm. So when the teacher starts, putting into their minds about, you could be a girl even though you're a boy and you have to accept people and all that, they don't want to make them upset. It's an adult figure, an authority figure, and it's really sick. Like these are child teachers that do this are child abusers.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
You know, that's the way I look at it. They're absolute child abusers. Well, I hope this happens. I know Hobbs won't sign any of it. I think it's been a gift that Hobbs has said on Twitter and publicly that she wants to spend $500,000. We don't know where she gets that $500,000 to flip the legislature to Democrat. I mean, there's no reason in my mind you guys should have to work with her after she did something like that.
Oh no, well, and I'm pretty sure people are looking into where that money is coming from. So that wasn't a very wise thing to go out there saying on social media. But this just makes it that much more important to back your good candidates. I mean, we're the three of us are targets this next election. Absolutely. Looking at, even our House race. I mean, Corey, it was a little scary there for a while. Mm-hmm. And I believe one of our Democrat opponents has already jumped back in. So, yeah, it's just make sure you get behind your candidates that you love and, your representatives like us that really are up here trying to do exactly what you asked us to do. Yes, it's a little futile sometimes because we do have to get it past Hobbs. But we do have some, ballot initiatives and things like that she doesn't have to sign.
Yep.
So you have to be creative and strategic. And I think as a whole, the Republican legislature is doing that. We're trying to kind of think outside the box so we can, fight back a little bit with what we've got. But she said it. They're coming for the legislature in 24. So.
Yep. And not just because she says it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You know what? I think they're scared. I think there's more of us. They can't cheat their way out of it. We got to get the damn elections back, and I'm hopeful we will. And maybe there's something to this story again about Brnovich. We're going to talk to Jen Wright coming up, Rachel, and she's got the insight and the goods. She worked at the AG's office. She worked in the election integrities unit. So I can't wait. And she's already poked holes on this in Twitter. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Rachel, you keep up the great work. You know what? Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to. Yeah, we're doing a special election hearing today. It's a joint with the House and the Senate. I think RSBN is televising it. So I just want to put that out there for anybody that's interested.
What time?
We've got some good witnesses, good speakers coming to talk about some of the discrepancies in both 2020 and 2022. So we'll see what comes of it.
What time is that?
It starts at 9, actually. So we're going, I think, 9 to 11, and then we'll reconvene at 1.
There you go.
Until 5.
Well, don't mess up my listeners to my show, but I understand. It'll be available on demand on the RSBN YouTube page as well. So there you go.
Exactly. Yeah, we won't take your listeners, Garrett.
Thank you. My kids have to eat. Hey, Rachel, thank you, Representative Rachel Jones, who, by the way, did get more votes than Corey McGarr, who's also a representative. We just have to point that out every time. Keep up the good work, and whatever you need, just let me know, okay?
Thank you. Sounds good, Garrett.
Thank you. Take care. We'll continue. We have Jen Wright coming up about this ridiculous story about Brnovich hiding the facts that there was no cheating in the 2020 election. She was in the AG's office. It's coming up right here on KNST. Yes, that's me. Hi, Garret Lewis with you. KNST AM 790 Tucson's most stimulating talk. Listen. There's something really strange going on. Why, oh why, would the unfortunate Attorney General, Chris Mays, put out 3 documents claiming these 3 things prove Brnovich, the former AG, hid information that the 2020 election was totally fine, totally on the up and up. Why now? Then, of course, all the Maricopa County supervisors ran with it. See, we told you. So Republican rhinos, I should say, agreeing with the hardcore left. And then Bill Gates, Maricopa County supervisor, runs to CNN to talk about it. So all 4 people enjoyed that. Why now? Are they trying to set the narrative because something big is coming down? Why? You know what? I'm so excited to talk to Jen Wright. She was with the Attorney General's office. She was the Assistant Attorney General of this state, and she ran the civil division of the Election Integrity Unit. And she put all over Twitter information debunking all of it. And I want her to talk about it now because they are trying to create a narrative on the other side. So Jen is with me now. Jen, thank you for the time this morning. How you doing?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Sure. So what was your reaction when you saw this story out of nowhere? 3 documents put out, and all of a sudden the 2020 election was totally fine, and Brnovich hit it, and it just gave all